Hi, Boa. Welcome to 10 Minute Talks. I'm Harshadeva. Today's guest is someone who's been on my interview list from day one. So, let me introduce.
Today, I'm truly honored to welcome very special guest, Professor John Paul Lederach. For more than 4 decades, he has worked as a practitioner scholar, engaging in peace processes across Latin America, Africa, Southeast and Central Asia, and Europe. He is widely known for shaping culturally grounded approaches to conflict transformation and for designing long-term strategic peace-building efforts. Professor Lederach is Professor Emeritus at the University of Notre Dame and is currently part of the Guild for Social Healing at the One Being Project. He is the author and co-editor of over 30 books and manuals, including The Moral Imagination, Building Peace, The Little Book of Conflict Transformation, The Pocket Guide for Facing Down a Civil War, and his most recent work, The Centuries Wrap Around Us. John Paul, welcome to 10 Minute Talks.
It is a really honor to have you here. My first question is, today we see many conflicts where violence is still ongoing. Um, from your experience, how can we practically build peace at the community level? And what does it really mean to practice peace during war, not only after it?
Yes. Well, thank you, Harsha. It's an honor to be with you. I think there are two or three parts to this question, so it's a very important one. I think first, for much of my life work, I have engaged at the community level. And one of the things that you find that's especially important is that while there is this sensation that so many of these events, especially the ones that lead to large scale war, are held at the highest political level, and that people often feel distant from those decisions. The reality is that not only are the communities often those that are most affected, but any of us that are engaged know that when we think about response, we always have access to people and connections and to ideas where it is that we actually live. Yeah, I sometimes refer to this as the principle of accessibility. So rather than emphasizing the distance we have from important decision makers, I think a lot of peace building is actually being very imaginative about the places where we do have contact and access, and often in ways that moves across differences that coexist in local geographies. The second part of your question, of course, I have always suggested that the work of peace building is before, during, and after open violence. It is not exclusively at the point at which we try to somehow reach an agreement to end that violence, but it has a long term process to it. Martin Luther King Jr. always used to say, um, two things that seem to be at the opposite ends of the spectrum, but that in fact are very tightly held. He would talk about the what he called the fierce urgency of now, the immediate situation that we find ourselves in, and he would talk about the long arc that bends toward justice, which is the long-term work. And I think the most creative and imaginative people are those that combine the fierce now and the long arc. That is, they're dedicated to it for a lifetime, but they also understand and can see opportunity and possibilities in any given moment that they're located in. So that's a lifelong journey, but one that can be very imaginative about the immediate situations that we're in.
Thank you, John Paul. My second question is, looking back at your journey, was there a moment when you felt uncertain or even lost in your peace building work? What's helped you find your way forward?
Yeah. Well, if I'm quite honest, it's almost as if there is no moment that you don't feel some sense of being lost. It's the nature of conflict, especially the hardest conflicts, to always be up against things that feel like they are not easy and are not changing. In one book that I wrote, the little book of conflict transformation, I talked about the four experiences that we have with this question that you're asking. And those experiences are there are moments where you feel like you're making a difference and things are moving forward. And there are certainly times where you feel like you've come up against a wall and you're just banging your head against what feels like um, something that's paralyzing and stopping everything. And then we have the experience where suddenly things feel like they're going backwards, they're going in the wrong direction. And that it can be very daunting because it feels like it's undoing so much of what we've given our work to. And then I certainly have lived through moments, and you mentioned that you were from Sri Lanka, and I'm sure in that context you felt these moments where everything feels like it's coming apart, it's collapsing. And that actually I drew it as a circle. So you're constantly in some feeling around that. It repeats itself, but you have to step back far enough to locate a bigger picture of where you are and how that's a part of something that's much larger. And so I think the key to the answer to your question is having a pretty keen sense of purpose, of what it is that we're really giving our work to, and having an understanding that this is not easy, and there will be times where we hit a wall, there will be times where things go backwards, and there will be times when things fall apart. And all of those create the context within which opportunity and new approaches and better ideas can emerge. So I, for one, think that we have to have this ability to think continuously about what we're doing. I sometimes say, with a bit of humor, that when everybody is optimistic, I become pessimistic because I'm raising questions about thinking that everything's going to be over and done quickly. But when people are very pessimistic, I become optimistic because there is a certain gift to knowing that you've reached a better understanding of the hard decisions and the hard realities that have to be dealt with. So, in that regard, we have to have a real sense of keeping our feet on the ground, but also our capacity for us to envision something that does not yet exist.
My last question is, today many builders are losing hope, and some organizations are even closing. What would you say to those who feel discouraged and how they continue this work, practice, and is still believing in it?
Yes, it's a great question. Um, so I've always understood, especially from the people that I've learned from who have navigated settings of very difficult conflict, that it's not wise to take hope as if it's a kind of an objective thing. You either have it or you don't. But that hope actually has much more to do with how we choose to show up and whether we choose to take the step that is available to us today. And so there is a sense in which hope embodied, that is, hope placed into action. And the ways that I've understood this was what I referred to as imagination of risk, that people can imagine taking one step at a time. We often think about hope as requiring of us this massive, huge leap from one mountaintop to another, which seems very unrealistic. But in reality, many of the people that I think did the most significant work in peace building, when they look back across their life and their decisions, they often talk about how at any given hour, any given day, there was something that became clear to them that they needed to do that day. It was like imagination of one step at a time. And I think that's hope embodied. And I would encourage people to really hold fast to that notion that what's hope is not a requirement of you of something that's totally unrealistic. It's the ability to say, what today can I do? Who can I reach to? Who can I talk to? And doing that, I think, is what adds up through the long journey. And to commit yourself to that, I think makes all the difference in the world.
Thank you very much, Professor, for this meaningful conversation. I really appreciate your time and insights. Thank you.
Thank you, Harsha.